Champions Cup final, folks, and it's Bordeaux who get themselves some silverware after quite the long wait. Yellow cards, a very frenetic and frantic first half, a little bit scrappier in the second, but ultimately Bordeaux managed to maintain an 8-point lead for a very long time and just kind of saw the game out. There was a whole bunch of TMO in this game, which was, I don't know, a little bit too high. But yeah, ultimately a game pretty fitting of a final, close enough to still be entertaining right down to the wire. We'll go through some of the key events and you guys can let us know your thoughts and obviously some stats there at the end. I got up at like 1:45 to watch this game, so in the morning, that is. Not the ideal kickoff time. They had the roof closed in Cardiff though, so it kind of felt like a nighttime game anyway, but I didn't have time to even kind of rub the sleep out of my eyes because the start to this game was quite incredible. Northampton, Mitchell looking to go quick early and play at tempo. It was clearly a bit of intent from them. They sent Coles burrowing over from close range. He did well to ground the ball for a 7-0 early lead. But before they could even bloody restart from that try, Ram, who had a bit of a niggling injury going into this one, he has to limp off injured. And it's probably fortunate Northampton had their 5-3 split because he needs to be replaced. And then a minute later, Litchfield has to come on for Furbank, who cops a stray Burros knee to the head in the backfield. So Northampton, within 3-4 minutes, have lost 2 of their key backs. And Burros, to be fair, only lasted 20 for Bordeaux as well. So both sides' back threes were pretty negatively affected, but it didn't seem to affect the first half, because Bordeaux were able to hit back after their early conceding of points through Penno, who was another guy who was a little bit doubtful going into this one, but he managed to bag himself a couple of tries. Moefana, who was pretty immense. Big carry up the guts, and then Bordeaux doing what they do in terms of spreading the ball wide to their wingers. He's able to go over, miss conversion, but 7-5. And you could feel both sides really looking to go with the dinking kicks over. Freeman tried it. Luku was doing the box kick for days. Jalibert was likewise employing a few dinking kicks through. Ultimately, I feel like Bordeaux had the better of the kicking game in this one. Like, Northampton have a heap more carries, but the kicking game that Bordeaux employs, very effective. It wasn't quite, I don't think, as effective once BLBRA kind of had to shift to fullback to cover for the missing Burros. I think it was a little bit, it looked more dangerous when they had both the kind of key wing guys chasing their kicks in terms of Penno and BLBRA. But yeah, there was a lot of kicking for space early on in the first half, and it was keeping the game, I don't know, flowing pretty nicely. They did have a try chalked off, Bordeaux, and there were multiple tries chalked off in this game. Penno and BLBRA looking to link up, but the final ball from the penultimate ball from BLBRA to Penno was deemed to be forward, I think pretty correctly. Maybe a little bit of justice because it looked like there'd been a non-knock-on in the build-up where Finn Smith had kind of fumbled the ball backwards, but it was called as a knock-on. So yeah, from the resulting scrum, it looked like they'd scored, but gets chalked off. So one of many to get chalked off. That's when we lose Burros to the HIA, which, as I said, is, I think, a bit disruptive for Bordeaux's backline, but no more disruptive than Northampton losing both of their early backs. And then, we get a second try for Bordeaux. This one is Jalibert who sets it up. It's a bloody nice change of direction. For days, you think Bordeaux close range in Northampton's 22 are going left. Jalibert shifts it right. It's a pop ball to Big Coleman, the lumbering lock, who's able to just kind of flop over the line, which was kind of an unexpected one. 12 points to 7. Bordeaux's in the lead, and they're not going to relinquish that thing for the rest of the game. Finn Smith did have a shot at a long-range penalty to stop the bleeding from a Northampton point of view to make it 12-10, but then Bordeaux got one back with the penalty of their own to make it 15-10. And then, I was starting to get a little bit sick of the commentators. I had Andy Good, a couple of other guys, just moaning about everything. And the TMO's missing that, and it's the English commentary team, so they had a bit of a Northampton bias for sure. I'm sure if you guys were watching the French broadcast, they probably had a French bias. And if you're watching the Welsh broadcast, I don't know, maybe they were calling it down the middle. But one thing the commentators didn't spot, but the TMO did spot, was a Diaby high shot on Mayana Vanua, who also has to go off. Diaby gets yellow carded for it, so they ruled that he was passive in the tackle. But yeah, man advantage to Northampton. What can they do? They initially go for the jugular, but eventually, when there's another penalty conceded, they kind of opt for the 3 points, which is certainly the safe thing to do. But they probably needed to score during the yellow card, and they almost did. Pollock looked to have chased through a kick for a try, but he was deemed to be just in front before he started his run. So that's probably the high point of the game for Northampton, I think, apart from the early score, because they had a proper decent bit of pressure on then. But Freeman gets himself yellow carded for tackling Peno in the air, which brings us back to 14 on 14. And then Bordeaux more or less punish straight away. It's a bit of a scrappy try. Again, Jalibert there with the build-up. Dinking kick gets kind of charged, or at least it goes into the shins of the Northampton players, but then the bobbling ball is able to be regathered by Bordeaux, who then just shift it right to Pinot, who goes over for his second try of the game. Guy wasn't even sure he was going to make a Champions Cup final, ends up scoring 2 tries, so 20 points to 13. Starting to look like trouble for Northampton, because barring the early try, they've conceded 20 points and scored 3. But to be fair, they got themselves back to even Stevens before half-time. Coles is the guy who finishes it off. Slightholme, who's off the bench earlier than expected, helps kind of set it up. And again, it's Northampton going blindside. So blindside moves in this game seem to be catching other teams just slightly unawares. So yeah, 20 points apiece at half-time. The possession is slightly with Northampton. The territory is slightly with Bordeaux. Again, that kind of makes sense given the way the teams have been playing, with Bordeaux putting a little bit more boot to ball. The line breaks is 5-2 to Bordeaux, though. They have looked a bit sharper. 11 defenders beaten to Northampton 6, but turnovers 1 is 3-1 at halftime to Northampton, so they have been effective in that area. The second half's not that great. Like, there's a ton of times when I felt like Bordeaux were going to put this game to bed, but it was Northampton early. They got denied another try. Pollock again, blindside again, from a kind of close range move, but they deemed that Coles has pulled back Big Beard Tamiafuna, which has allowed the gap, which Pollock has been able to go down. So that's a second try denied for Northampton. It's 2 denied tries to 1 by that point, but that's probably the closest we get to a Northampton try in the second half. Unfortunately for them, they hang on for days. I mean, it's 20 points apiece, and they spend a fair bit of the second half defending. They end up conceding the first points through a penalty, which Luku didn't want to take. But I think it's an important one in the scheme of things, because it's only this penalty and a try, which makes it a 2-score lead. So it is an important one. It's another bit of TMO. Prowse head-on-head against Moefana, same as the first half, so kind of passive in the tackle, same as Diaby's one. Yellow card and shot at goal, 23 points to 20. And yeah, the Northampton guys hang on for so long. I got to give credit to their defenders, because Bordeaux, they had a maul chance where Lamotte just drops it over. They had a maul chance. Coles pinched it before they could go over the line. Bordeaux definitely should have scored there. They did get one through Cazot, close range, kind of able to power over a misconversion, but this final scoring, 28-20. But how many chances did they not have? Taken. A lot. Bordeaux kicked it dead at one point, which was a chance for Northampton. They conceded a penalty from the resulting scrum. Missed chance to get themselves back into the game. Both sides knocking it on. TMO's reversing calls, tackle in the air. No, he was jumping into it. TMO says, no, he wasn't jumping into it. It gets a little bit ugly. Northampton's scrum is starting to get on top, but then they would win the scrum penalty, lose the resulting line out. win a penalty, next line out's not straight. Northampton had enough chances to get at least something going on. Like 77th minute, win a penalty at the scrum. You've got to score right now. Langdon just like knocks on a pass, which I don't think was meant for him. So, yeah, the second half's not as good as the first. I'm kind of glad it was around that way, because as me crawling out of bed, and if it had been that first half played like the second, I might have wanted to go back to bed. But the first half was on absolute fire. So both sides denied tries, both sides yellow cards, lots of TMO. But ultimately, it just felt like Bordeaux was strangling the life out of Northampton. And I think they did it. They did it pretty effectively. They'll be disappointed they couldn't really put the game totally to bed a bit earlier. And Northampton will be disappointed. They had a few chances to get themselves back down the other end, but couldn't really get any phases together. So ultimately, it's Bordeaux, like I said, who get their hands on the silverware. They will be absolutely chuffed. They've been pretty good value this Champions Cup campaign, but there were a lot saying that Northampton were going to get flogged in this game, and that also didn't eventuate, so got to give them some credit. At the end of the day, the stats, carries is 135 to 94 to Northampton. So they had a heap of carries, but the kicks from hand is 38-28 to Bordeaux. As I said, they put their kicking game to good effect. Turnovers conceded is 20 to 12, with Bordeaux coughing up way too much pill. That's what I mean by they couldn't quite put the game to bed. Turnovers won 6-3, also a big part. That's as Northampton turning Bordeaux over to keep themselves alive in the game. Penalty counts a little bit high, 13-11. Bordeaux have 58% territory. 52% possession goes to Northampton. So as I said, it's a pretty even split with the way the teams wanted to play the game. Yogan has 14 tackles. Pollock wins 2 turnovers. Luku, man of the match, 2 dominant tackles, 15 kicks, and that clutch penalty. Jalibert hits up a couple of tries. 40 points in the first half, just the 8 in the second. That is the Champions Cup campaign for 2024-2025. I'm probably going to head back to bed because it is now 4:15 in the morning. If anyone wants to buy me a coffee, there's a link down in the description. That'll help keep me awake when I have to get back up in a couple of hours. But yes, you guys take care of yourselves. What did you think of the game? What did you think of the commentary, if you had the English one? Like I said, I just thought they were a bit whingy. But anyway, good game. You guys take care, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.